You're listening to Coupled With, the podcast that helps you take the guesswork out of feeling seen, heard, and valued in your relationship. If you've ever felt stuck in the same arguments, struggled to stay connected, or wondered how to better communicate with your partner, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Rachel Orleck, a couples therapist and coach, and together, we're going to make relationships make sense. Let's dive in. You thought you met the one. The connection was instant. The texts were constant. The chemistry electric. They wanted to know everything about you. They couldn't get enough of you. And for a moment, it felt like the kind of love story that movies are made of. It wasn't just flirting. It was intensity. They came on strong with declarations and plans, like they already knew your future together. And then, nothing. Silence, calls unanswered, plans canceled. A person who seemed to want your whole world suddenly vanished from it. The whiplash of that experience leaves you spinning. You replay every moment, every word, every touch, trying to figure out what you missed. Was it something you said? Did you move too fast? Or worse, was it all fake from the start? That ache in your chest is grief, but it's also confusion. Because how could something that felt so consuming, so alive, disappear overnight? It feels like betrayal, but also like a rug got pulled out from under your nervous system. And the hard truth is, what felt like connection was actually intensity, the fireworks, the constant attention, the flood of dopamine in your brain. It created a high. But a high isn't the same thing as safety. Chemistry isn't the same thing as intimacy. And when you've been love bombed, your nervous system gets hooked on that rush, making the ghosting feel like withdrawal. And this can also happen in long-term relationships, where there's that intensity at the beginning and things tend to level out over time. And then all of a sudden down the road, it feels like they've ghosted you. And this is where many of us get so stuck. Instead of seeing the pattern, we start to blame ourselves. We shrink, we overfunction, we work twice as hard to prove we're worth staying for. We tell ourselves, if we just play it cool or need less or become more desirable, maybe they'll come back. But all that effort isn't closeness. It just depletes us. So that's where we're going in this episode. We're going to talk about why fast connections feel intense but not safe, why our bodies start to confuse chemistry for love, and how chasing intensity leaves us feeling exhausted and invisible. And most importantly, we'll explore what it means to step off that roller coaster and choose the kind of love that actually lasts. So, love bombed, then ghosted isn't just a phrase. It's a cycle your nervous system feels in real time. At the start, it's the flood. Constant messages, dramatic declarations, long nights of talking, and intense physical chemistry. You feel like you've known each other forever, even though it's only been days or weeks. The speed feels intoxicating, like you've skipped the awkward getting to know you stage and landed in soulmate territory. And then comes the crash. The texts slow down, plans get vague, calls go unanswered. The energy that once felt like a tidal wave suddenly disappears. And you're left scrambling, wondering what you did wrong. The silence isn't neutral, it's deafening. And your body shifts into high alert because the sudden withdrawal signals danger. You chase for answers, replay all your conversations, and sometimes even double down on proving your worth, hoping the intensity will return. This is actually something that I experienced a lot during my dating phase, where that intense chemistry in the beginning, that excitement was there because it felt dangerous. It felt like at any moment they could leave, and I felt like I had to do more. And I probably became that naggy girlfriend or that clingy partner. And then they would slowly pull away, and I'd be left wondering what happened and blaming myself for being too much, or maybe even not doing enough, even though I was already overfunctioning. And here's where that overfunctioning kicks into hyperdrive. To keep the connection alive, you start to minimize your own needs. You might hold back on your opinions or tolerate mixed signals or bend over backwards to keep them engaged. You make yourself smaller and quieter and more agreeable, not because you want to, but because it feels like it's the only way to stop them from disappearing. And we do this in long-term relationships as well. And when you're doing all of this work, your partner starts to invest less and less in you. And that's the exhausting truth. Love bombing and eventually going quiet and ghosting trains you to live in survival mode. You're always waiting for that other shoe to drop, always scanning for signs that they're drifting away. The relationship stops being about connection and it becomes about vigilance. Vigilance doesn't create closeness. It wears you down, it keeps you scared, and it keeps you in this story where you're invisible. Until eventually the fireworks end, and then there's silence. So let's reframe it a little bit. That intensity is not the same thing as intimacy. That rush that you feel when someone is texting you nonstop, that new relationship energy where they want to know everything about you and they make big declarations about how much they care. It feels like connection, but it's really your nervous system in overdrive. Your brain is flooded with dopamine and it creates the illusion of being close, but it isn't the same thing as long-term trust, safety, or regulation. Intensity is a spark. Intimacy is what happens when that spark is tended to over time. And to be honest, we've been taught to confuse the two. Movies, books, even dating advice glorify that whirlwind romance. The passionate fling, the instant chemistry, love at first sight, and the couple can't keep their hands off each other. And when you've been love bombed, that script plays out in real time. The fireworks feel like destiny. But here's the truth. Fast isn't forever. What starts as overwhelming chemistry can fizzle just as quickly. And when it does, you're left wondering what was real. And this is where the shame creeps in. People blame themselves for falling for it. They say things like, I should have seen this coming, or I can't believe I was so stupid to believe them. But you weren't stupid. You are human. Your nervous system is wired to light up when someone gives you constant cues of interest and belonging. The problem isn't that you fall. The problem is that the foundation wasn't built on stability first. So if you've been in a relationship where you've been love bombed and then either all of a sudden or slowly they start to ghost and pull away, the story isn't that you're unworthy of love. The story is that your body got hooked on a pattern that was never designed to last. Intensity without regulation burns out so fast. But steady, secure connection gives you something intensity never can, a love that actually stays. When someone comes on strong, flooding you with attention and affection, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of novelty and reward. It says, "This feels exciting, keep going." That's why every text, every compliment, and every late night conversation feels like a hit. You're literally riding a chemical roller coaster. And the tricky thing is that dopamine thrives on unpredictability. When the other person pulls away or goes silent, your brain doesn't calm down. It craves more. The lack of response feels like deprivation, which only makes the next text or the apology feel even more rewarding. This is like a drug. This is the hook that keeps people stuck. And it's not just attachment, it's chemistry manipulating your body into thinking that it's in love, when really you're in withdrawal. So now compare that to secure love, which runs more on oxytocin, the bonding chemical. Oxytocin is released through constant presence, steady touch, reliable communication, and shared routines. It creates safety and belonging. But if you're used to chaos, oxytocin can feel flat. Your nervous system has been trained to associate spark with danger and drama. So a calm connection reads as boring, or worse, like there's no chemistry at all. And this is why in relationships that are longer term, at around 6 months to a year, there's a lot of people ending their relationships because it no longer has that passion, that spark. But really, what's happening is the steadiness of oxytocin being released that is the stability of more secure love. But we've been told that we need that chemistry, that spark, that passion, otherwise it's boring and it's not working. So the nervous system truth becomes dopamine love is fireworks, loud and dazzling, but it's gone in seconds. Oxytocin love is a fire pit, steady and warm and built to last the night. Both light up your brain, but only one teaches your body that it's actually safe to love. And if you've been in a relationship where you've been on this spectrum of love bombing, then you get hooked again. It doesn't mean that your system is broken. It means that your brain is addicted to the high, not the connection. And the good news is you can retrain it. So let's put these two experiences side by side. With love bombing, everything moves at lightning speed. There's the rush of attention, the surge of dopamine, the sense that you've finally found somebody who really sees you. But underneath all of that intensity is insecurity. You can't relax because you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You start over functioning, sending the first text, smoothing over tension, making yourself smaller, attending to their every need. And no matter how hard you work, the crash eventually comes, leaving you doubting yourself and the whole connection. While in secure love, the pace is different. The connection builds more slowly with consistency and follow through. Texts aren't frantic, they come in at a steady pace. The physical chemistry is there, but it's woven into emotional trust. And instead of fireworks that explode and burn out, it feels more like you're having a bonfire that's going to last, something you can actually get close to and warm your hands by. And to be honest, at first, it can feel too calm, maybe even boring, Maybe you even tell yourself, I don't love this person, but it's your body being wired for chaos. And what looks like boring is actually your nervous system experiencing safety. And safety is the soil where passion can grow, and that becomes safer passion. So the problem is that a lot of people walk away from secure connections because they don't feel that same kind of adrenaline rush. They mistake the absence of chaos for the absence of passion. They tell themselves, oh, maybe this is just friendship. Or if I'm not constantly anxious, does that mean I'm not in love? But that belief just keeps them trapped in this cycle of intensity and fizzle out. Secure love doesn't make you perform to keep it. It makes space for you to rest. So here's the contrast in one sentence. Love bombing feels urgent but is unsustainable. Secure love feels steady but lasting. Real passion isn't in the drama, it's in safety. The kind of love that grows over time might not start with fireworks, but it does give you something dopamine never can, a relationship that will endure. So, what do you actually do if you've been caught in this cycle? Because once you've felt that rush of intensity, calmer connections can feel almost uncomfortable. It's not that you don't want steady love, you might even crave it, but your body has been trained to chase the fireworks. So, this means that the first step is not shaming yourself for wanting that high. The craving doesn't mean you're broken. It means that your nervous system has learned to equate unpredictability with passion. And like any habit, it can be retrained. Here's a simple reflection you can start using: clarity or chaos. When you're drawn to somebody, ask yourself, does this feel like connection? Does this connection feel clear or does it feel chaotic? Clear doesn't mean perfect. It means you understand where you stand. The words and the actions line up. They show up when they say they will, while chaos, on the other hand, keeps you guessing. You're always analyzing, you're always waiting, and you're always chasing. Naming the difference can help your body begin to trust calm instead of mistaking it for flatness. Another helpful question is, am I shrinking to keep them close? If you notice yourself minimizing your needs, holding back opinions, or over functioning in some way just to maintain the relationship, that is a huge red flag. Love that requires you to disappear in it isn't love. It's just survival mode. Secure love doesn't demand that you vanish. Secure love makes space for you, flaws and all. Even pausing to ask this kind of question interrupts the autopilot, and it gives you a chance to step back into your full self. Finally, practice tolerating calm. When your body says, this feels boring, or this is just friendship, try reframing it as, this feels safe. Passion doesn't disappear in steady love. It deepens once your nervous system trusts that the bottom isn't going to fall out of your world. So at first, sitting in that calm will feel uncomfortable, like you're waiting for a silence to break. But over time, your body learns that safety doesn't mean settling. It means you finally get to rest and fully be seen. So this is the truth I want you to carry forward. Being love bombed and then having that relationship fizzle out and maybe even get ghosted doesn't mean you're unlovable or naive. It means your system responded exactly how it was designed to. By attaching to the signals of attention, by craving the rush of dopamine, and by panicking when those signals start to disappear. You were wired to notice connection, and what you weren't taught is how to tell the difference between intimacy and safety, between the rush that burns out and the steadiness that lasts and is safe. So when you've lived through these cycles, it's really easy to internalize the wrong lesson. You might be thinking, if I was more chill, they would have stayed, or maybe I should have seen the red flags sooner. I've thought that many times myself. But these thoughts keep that shame alive. The real lesson isn't that you need to disappear or need less in order to keep a relationship. It's that intensity without regulation in a relationship, without that safety, it isn't love. That's a roller coaster. And no one can live forever on that without crashing. So, this is where the hope starts to come in. Because the opposite of being ghosted isn't being endlessly pursued, it's being steadily chosen. Secure love might not start with fireworks, but it doesn't fizzle when the novelty wears off. It changes, it feels different, but it builds slowly and it feels calm, and it allows both people to show up fully without performing. Passion grows when it has roots, and that's what makes it sustainable, even when the initial dopamine rush fades. So, if this sounds like you, if you've had these relationships that felt really strong and intense at the beginning and fizzled out maybe days, weeks, months, or even a couple of years later, let this be a turning point for you. Stop chasing that chaos and start noticing the calm. Start asking, does this feel clear or does this feel chaotic? And am I shrinking to keep them close to me? These small shifts retrain your body to recognize secure love when it does show up. And if you want to go deeper into practicing how this works, I'm going to have some things coming down the pike really soon that's going to help. Because clarity and calm aren't boring. They're the foundation of love that lasts. That's it for today's episode of Coupled With. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. And if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review. It really helps more than you know. And if you're curious about how we might work together or want more resources to strengthen your relationship, head over to my website, www.drrachelorleck.com. You'll find free tools, podcast extras, and ways to go deeper. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time. If you've been nodding along during this episode thinking, this is exactly what happens in my relationship, but I don't know how to stop it, I made something for you. It's a free 7-day email course called Break the Cycle. Each day, I'll walk you through simple steps to stop the same fight from repeating and start rebuilding real connection without shutting down, walking on eggshells, or trying to do it all perfectly. You can sign up at my website. I'll link it in the show notes. It's totally free. This isn't just about communication. It's about breaking patterns that are breaking you.